Okay, hi, Kian here, and it's been a couple weeks, I think, since my last video. I mean, I probably made a lot of smaller videos, but this has been my last large video about a specific tool I've been making because I've been spending the last 2 or 3 weeks working on this tool. So, um, one thing I've always had an issue with was trying to match textures with different meshes, and a lot of times I force the user to kind of go through and select which textures apply to which mesh from all the textures that could possibly be loaded. And so one thing I realized is that as I was making more and more tools and getting more and more familiar with the tools, that every single time uh, I started to uh, emulate the actual game's memory of using 2 MB for system memory and then using the frame buffer, which is a 1 MB area of memory, and kind of getting it closer and closer to what's actually running on the PlayStation hardware to try and figure out which mesh is attached to what texture. And then all of a sudden one day it kind of dawned on me, well, why am I trying to match up the textures the um, with the meshes by trying to guess which file I need to load when the game already has um, those associations laid out for me. So since I was doing the memory anyways and I had the offsets, why not try it? So this is my totally bonkers save state viewer. And what that is I'll show you in a sec. So we're going to hit the start button. We're going to we'll go to continue. We'll go ahead and load a save state. So we're going to go ahead and load a save state, or load a save. I guess we'll go ahead and go to Cardo Enforced. Okay, and here we are in Cardon Forest. So boom, 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 boom. We can look around. We can see there's a flutter. There's a support car. Here we are. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit escape real quick. And not that one. We're going to go to PSXR, emulator, save state, save slot 1, and boom, save the save state. And then we're going to go ahead and close this out because we don't need it right now. Escape, go away. And then we're going to go ahead here and browse, and it should be somewhere in .psxr and save states. One thing to mention is this only works for PSSXR. The save state format for EPSXE is not, I couldn't find it anywhere, but for PCSXR, it's open source, so I can go through and see what the save state format is, and I can get the offsets, and I can make a file. So here we are. And this switch to stage 3. So if I go through, there'll be different types of files. Here we have data, and we can actually select as animation. So data can dance for us. And the animations, one thing I'm still working on is at the end, they're supposed to repeat and loop, and there's still a couple rules that I'm still working with. And so we've got the support car, we've got roll. Roll can run, not well, but she can run. We've got Dustin, we've got Bakery Lady, we've got the NPCs, policeman, action, doors and things like that. Then if we go to STG, we can load all the tiles that the game is using. And for the tiles, there's going to be a ton of Z fighting. So if we kind of go and look here, you can see that the textures kind of get chopped and muddy pretty quickly. And so what's going on there is the game probably has a system where it looks to see I think they just do a draw call. So if you draw up a color, then whatever's going to be drawn on top of that is going to draw on top of that. With 3JS and more modern browsers or more modern 3D viewers, they're going to try and do a depth function, which tries to make it more educated, rather than just drawing one thing on top of each other of what's ever in the Z buffer. Try to have a guess at what's supposed to be drawn, and since they're on the same plane, it kind of gets you get the Z fighting there. So I haven't figured out a way to get that to display. Well, I have played around with different options to play around with the depth function, but I haven't found a silver bullet for something that's just for something that will work for all circumstances or automated. It tends to end up being a more manual process. So here we are, and we can load all the tiles from the stage, and if we go to MDT, we can load, this will show you a preview of the rooms, and this is just kind of a quick and dirty thing. I don't know how the game manages rooms yet, so I just made a thing that kind of spits out the tiles and spits out the tile numbers and stuff like that. Quick and dirty. Room 4, room 6. So you can kind of get an idea of the different rooms in the game. And this is my latest addition. Is I finally gone through and combined Megaman into his own model. So this probably doesn't seem like a big thing, but Megaman is actually split up into different parts of the mesh. So the body part here is one part, left arm is one part, right arm is one part, head is another part, feet are another part, buster weapon is another one, and special weapon is another one. So he's split up into 6 different parts, and you kind of have to go through the memory and find out where he is, and then his bones aren't in an obvious place, so I had to go through and grab them from the Mega Man cutscene model and put them in there and kind of manually do the bones. Mega Man is just a lot more trouble than he needs to be. And what I've done now is I've gone ahead and implemented his animations. So his animations were also more trouble than they need to be. For EBD files, which are the other files like roll-in data and stuff, the game uses a weird 1.5 byte format for each of those models for encoding their animation rotations. Mega Man uses a very similar style of 1.5 bytes, but the thing about Mega Man is he only uses one axis for his elbows and one axis for his knees, and that changes the offsets. And so I was getting really weird results when I was trying to go through it before. I went through it bone by bone, figured out the encoding method, and so now we have animations for Mega Man. So a lot of these are really short. I'm guessing the game uses a pretty sophisticated animation controller, because you can see from crouching to standing up, rolling. The game tends to use a lot of really short animations, so I'm guessing that they use a controller or something to stitch those together through the through the game engine rather than anything like that. So a couple things, you can take a screenshot, you can export the PSX memory, you can export VRAM, you can save. Go ahead, if you hit save all, it will export all the tiles and all the characters and not Mega Man yet. And if you hit save one, it will go ahead and I haven't given Mega Man a name. Okay, I guess I need to go through and do that, but it will export Mega Man as a GLTF file, so you can go ahead and download Mega Man with all the bones and animations and everything. And if you want to find out more, here's the link for the GitHub, and here's the project. I haven't written a README. I guess I should need to go through that here. One thing to check out is the wiki, as I've added a ton of information on the wiki, and we're kind of updating it and doing more. So just last things. Just a huge shout out to Yura Damas. Hopefully I pronounced that right. I like to kind of pronounce it Ura Damasu in Japanese. But just huge shout out to Yura Damas for tons of fixes and kind of pestering me. I'm always like, oh no, what is it this time? What have I done? But he's helped me with the scale. He's helped me with a lot, just getting a lot of feedback and making this tool as polished as it is. And generally, most of my tools, just helping them where I've kind of cut corners and been lazy and not implemented things. He's kind of helped me go through and and implemented and cleaned up the things that I haven't been able to manage to get to or weren't knowledgeable enough about. So huge shout out to him. And so this is the save states tool. Anyways, any save state, mostly. A couple things like the inside the support car probably won't work because the game uses different offsets. Title menu, game over menu probably won't work. But outside of that, most of the gameplay and even most of the cutscenes will use the same offsets, and they should be viewable in this viewer. So that's it. I've really enjoyed making this tool. It's been fun. One last thing to mention though is the game doesn't always load the right textures for the doesn't always load all the correct textures for all the scenes at any given time. So for the tiles, the textures will work better if you create a save state and look at the tiles for whatever save state you're looking at. Some of the tiles outside, for the general area will generally work, but just it's not 100%. The game doesn't load all the textures in for all the tiles all at once. It generally seems to swap out the textures somewhere in there. So this is the inside of the flutter. I guess that's the TV or the aquarium or something, and you can see the Z fighting. But the textures aren't loaded in. If you're inside the flutter and you make a save state, you should get better results. That's about it. There's still some things to clean up. Clean up some of the animation timings, clean up the animations, get more parts to Megaman and his Buster parts, and look for some more of his animations. But the tool in its current state is somewhat getting to the point of usable. So I want to just go ahead and announce it and say, hey, there's a save state viewer. It's starting to look and turn into something. And yeah, it's there. It's a thing. Thanks again. I guess I'll see you in the next video.